giving you an opportunity to get the full story from the people who tell it best. This is Mediacom News Leaders.
Hello everyone and welcome to Mediacom News Leaders. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Carol Kelly. Joining us today is Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Cedar Rapids. We've got Scott Olson. Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
So coming off of a rainy season, we had some flood warnings happening last month. Let's talk about flood protection and what's happening currently with the city.
Well, as people experienced this time, compared to 2016, we did not reach the levels that required the massive protection of that time. And so this time, the city has such an organized approach now to flood protection. It's used as a model around the country by FEMA and the Corps of Engineers. And so at each stage of the river, there's a task or tasks they have to accomplish. And they were able to accomplish all of those tasks on time. As the river began to rise. We did not need volunteers because the staff was able to handle it. And so it sets an example that we are prepared for flooding issues while we're in the process of building the permanent flood protection. And the good news, as most people know, is we now know how much federal money we're getting. And the council voted recently on a plan to fund the gap, which was several $100 million, that will be funded over a 10-year period through the sale of bonds, which will require the city of Cedar Rapids to raise its tax rate. But the good news is it's going to be small steps over the next 10 years. And if we continue to grow at a pace faster than the estimate of 2.5% per year in growth, which we did last year, and if for some reason we are able to have lower bids, which so far all of the bids on our flood protection have come in under budget, that every year the council can look at that increase to see if it's needed, or we may not need to increase taxes. So that's the goal. If we continue growth, we'll be able to fund it. But we are on a plan that will complete the entire system in 10 to 15 years. And as each section is completed, it'll be less that we have to do temporary protection for, which is very expensive. And so it's an exciting time. We've got all the approvals. We're moving forward. Engineers are in place. Walls are being built. And so it's really made a difference in people feeling confident that we're going to have that finished product.
And you said this is really a 10-year plan. Is there somewhere someone could go, a resident could see the progress being made and kind of the steps that are happening currently?
On the city's website, there is a section that relates to flood protection that has the entire schedule and phasing of the project laid out, which areas and when they will occur. And there's a summary of the budget thing in a short form version for the public to understand. And so it is online and it's available to anybody. Plus there are flood committee meetings that happen once a month from the city staff, and those are open to the public.
Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about some building permits. It seems like this is just continuing to grow here in Cedar Rapids.
Well, last year we had our highest growth in several years of valuation, which came out about 4.6%. We have normally been running about 2%. So we had a super growth last year. Well, the good news is that it was just reported this week that our building permits reached $376 million, which is a record in the history of the city. It's the highest by $25 million, and compared to last year, it's $150 million more. So what that means is, as we talk flood protection, that those projects are underway, they're being built, and when they're completed, then they come on the tax rolls, which will lead to continued growth. And they just announced also, so far this year, which is only 3 months old into our fiscal year, we're already past $70 million in permits. So it's a real positive sign for the future, and a lot of these projects are in areas close to the flooding. And so people are confident, they're building, they're doing new things, that flood protection will happen.
Let's talk a little bit and highlight Paving for Progress.
Well, we're in our 5th year. Projects are on schedule to be completed. There's a lot of major projects that are causing headaches for people in several areas of the city, but we were so far behind. And at the end of this year, we will have spent approximately $100 million. We're halfway through the program that the voters approved. In the 10 years prior to that, we only spent $50 million in 10. Now we've already spent $100 million in 5. And we'll have another $100 million worth of project in the next 5 years. But we have so far to go, it's going to take more than 10 years to get us caught back up. And then hopefully then we could just keep on track with street improvements, et cetera. And so, again, it's caused a lot of disruption because we have some very major street projects this year. But it will start having an impact as these major roads open up, and then we'll be going more into the residential areas. And then the other final thing under Highway 100 will be opening late this year, which was a $100 million project that's been several years under construction. That will be completed on the northwest side, which will dramatically change traffic patterns.
Is there somewhere also someone could go to see kind of where the same kind of thing, the storyline, what's happening currently, and if it could affect them?
Yes, on Paving for Progress, on the city website, it gives what projects are underway, which projects have been done, what are the projects anticipated for the next couple of years, and so you'll get to see where it's moving. Now, the city reevaluates every 2 years the status of the streets, and so that list changes every 2 years. But they can see what is projected for next year's 19 construction and 2020.
You've got a background in real estate.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of that exciting news, some of the new projects that are happening?
Well, I think as you saw from the building permit list, we're continuing to see dramatic growth, and it's incurring the good news in all 4 quadrants. It's about 1,000 apartment units are under construction right now. We have condo projects under construction, single-family housing under construction, new forms of townhomes going in, and it's in all 4 areas. And then on top of that, we see a cross-section of commercial growth that if you drive around the city, you're seeing some retail projects go up, office projects go up, a variety of other types of renovations and expansions throughout the city. So many cities in the country would love to have the level of activity. And if you just go home to work every day and not go into the other quadrants, it's hard to imagine all of those projects going on at the same time in a city like Cedar Rapids. And it's also happening in our surrounding cities that also have an impact on the new opportunities and jobs and things that will be occurring in the community.
And can we talk about that, just the importance of growth, the importance of bringing new business here to Cedar Rapids and really the community to support those businesses?
Well, the new businesses have a couple important things. Number one, it creates jobs. Unfortunately, what we have is a very low unemployment rate, and we have companies looking at Cedar Rapids, but they're concerned about finding employees. Secondly, it creates tax base when we have new businesses, but more importantly, especially for retail, it increases sales tax. And the sales tax does 2 things. 1 cent goes to our streets, so people coming into our community to visit or work and then leave, maybe going somewhere else, they're paying that sales tax. And then it also pays for part of our flood protection. We're getting about $267 million from sales tax growth that's in our market. And so all of these activities are making a difference for the community. But it's new opportunities, it's new companies expanding, it's just a variety of types of things that will make a difference, and it's quality of life. People, since we're trying to recruit people to work here, they want to have those national stores to go shop at. They want to have fitness places. They want to have a variety of restaurants. And they want to have these other opportunities so that when they can decide where they go, whether that's after high school, after college, that they have a variety of jobs to pick from, and that when they're not working, there's bike trails, which we're doing a lot of, there's streets that are in good shape, there's housing options. So it all ties together and comes back to make the city a place that is ranked one of the top cities in the country.
I know right now the Economic Alliance is talking a lot about just growing here, giving here, supporting local, and holidays are going to be here before we know it. Let's talk about that.
Well, more people are shopping online. That's fine, but again, it is independent stores and independent restaurants and all of these businesses that are local and that they're an important part of our city need to be supported. And I try to do that. I don't always eat at the same place, but I work my way around to different restaurants. I like to try the new ones to see how they're doing. And so it is important that we spend, because again, whenever you buy something or go to a restaurant, there's sales tax on that. And again, a penny goes to our streets, and then our growth in sales tax goes toward flood protection. So we are making a difference by spending money here in our great city of Cedar Rapids. But the other thing, we just received the ranking nationally that Cedar Rapids is the 19th best run city in America out of the top 150 cities. Wow. 19th best, and we have the 11th best public services in the country. 19th out of the 150 top cities in America, we're up there with the best of them. And so that's something we should all be proud of. whether you're in city government, great staff, whether you work here, live here. We're trying to make this a better city for everyone.
We've just gotten a distinction. Cedar Rapids has certified 4-star community. Talk to us about that.
Sustainability, wind power, solar power, efficient use. The city has had an effort. We're one of the few cities in Iowa and in the country that has a sustainability officer on staff. That's his sole job, is to improve our efficiency of operating vehicles. We have new rules where if there's a city vehicle working on a project, it can't idle for more than 30 seconds. They have to turn it off to save gas and diesel. They have to, lighting programs, changing out lighting, doing things with solar power in the city. If you go around, you'll see solar systems next to our pump stations at water towers and things, so that we're powering our pumps that serve people and provide water with solar. So we're doing a whole series of things, and it's a very rigorous thing that we have to do. It's across the board, all the city agencies, lots of different objectives, 49 objectives in 8 goal areas that we have to meet. And some of those were number 1 ranked in solar ready for the city, micro loan programs, health and safety. It's a whole series of things. And so it's something to be very proud of, that the nation recognizes through our efforts what we're doing for sustainability, and we're continuing those efforts so we can move to 5 stars, which is very difficult to obtain, and but we're working toward it as a goal.
As a city and as a city council, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things you are working on as we get into the winter months and that?
Well, I think before the city council, there's always something going on. We're just completing our new zoning ordinance that will be completed yet this year, and the final public hearings are going to be held on that, which ties to our comprehensive plan that was adopted a couple years ago. We're also finishing up a study on pedestrian safety, and we're studying all of our sidewalks throughout the city to find out where there's gaps, and we're prioritizing sidewalks, where we're putting them in or asking citizens to put them in as part of projects where they connect to parks, where they connect to transit, where for a safety issue, walking to schools. So we're prioritizing 4 areas that we want to make sure there's no gaps, so people don't have to walk in the street to get to one of those important issues. And that study will be completed at the end of the year and has had great citizen response. And we also made a change last year because people were concerned that if we put a sidewalk in front of their property, they were originally assessed 50% of the cost. Mm-hmm. Plus then, of course, they have to plow it and take care of it. Well, we changed that rule where now the city's paying 100%. So it does not cost any homeowners. They still will have to maintain it. But we think that hopefully will make people more inclined to want a sidewalk in their area, where there's areas that have not had sidewalks for years.
We can talk a little bit too about some parks and rec, like you had mentioned. We're opening up new parks, and we're opening up Mount Trashmore, for example.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the Cedar Rapids has 95 parks, more than any other city in the state. We have trails that the Parks Department maintains. We have Mount Trashmore, that's the Lynn County Solid Waste Agency is now opening up. We have our golf courses. We have 4 golf courses. No other city in Iowa. Des Moines only has 3. No other city has more than 1. And we have 4. And we're studying that right now to make those operations as efficient as possible so that we can maintain those 4 golf courses. So it's that quality of life. It's bike trails, and they're connecting to the parks. Walking trails in the parks. We're doing a lot in all of our parks to make them ADA accessible. And so it's easy for people with disabilities to enjoy those same parks. And so it's an exciting time in our park system, but we have one of the most elaborate systems by far in the state of Iowa, and we're listed as one of the top cities park-friendly in the country.
We've talked a lot today about many projects that are happening here in the city of Cedar Rapids. Can we talk just briefly about just city engagement, getting community members involved?
Well, it's so important. The city staff does listen. The city council listens. I've been on the city council now for 6.5 years. It's fun to see people sitting there and asking questions. I love that input. And so come to the meetings. They're Facebook Live now, so people can watch our meetings. If you can't get there, we have all kinds of open houses. Please attend, because we want to see as many new faces there as possible to share their views. They are listened to, and we are making changes as we get public comments. And so it's very important. This is your city. You're paying taxes in this city. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is something that the citizens will benefit from, whether that's in their work environment, their home environment, or their quality of life.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This has been Mediacom News Leaders.